G'day Internet, welcome back to another video. So this video is about this tiny little device here. This is the mouSTer from Retrohax, and that's mouSTer with a capital S and a capital T, because it was originally designed for the Atari ST. Now, just to quickly get something out of the way, Retrohax did send this to me for free. I didn't have to make a video, I didn't have to do a review, and basically anything I say in this is me. So, this little device here is, I don't know how you'd explain it, but basically a multi-machine mouse emulator. It converts a USB mouse to DE9 to work in several vintage computers. So this currently works on the Atari ST, obviously, Atari 8-bits, it will do the Amiga, and it will also emulate a 1351 mouse. And that's actually what got my attention initially. A little while ago, Reese from Control-Alt-Reese got an early version of this and did a quick review on it. And just as almost like a side note in the video, he happened to mention that it did 1351. And I messaged Reese and went, hey, that's kind of cool because 1351 mice aren't exactly the most common thing in the world. And when you do come across them, they're not particularly cheap. And I've never been able to play around with GEOS on my 128D because I don't have a mouse. And this will hopefully fix that. So let's take a look. This is it here. There's not much to it. We've got our D9 connector and a USB port and a tiny little bit of circuitry inside. Now, you program this using a configuration file, which it will dump to a USB drive, and we'll look at that in a minute. And like I said, you plug in a USB mouse and away you go. It doesn't always work with every USB mouse. For instance, somewhere around here I have a early Microsoft optical mouse. Didn't want to have a bar of it, but when I pulled out a reasonably late model Dell one, it worked like a charm. So that is one small caveat. But other than that, that's kind of it. So let's start by taking the mouSTer and plugging it into my 128D and powering it up. So a quick one I just want to throw in here. This 128D has had some little static proof doohickeys put on the joystick ports. Remember that with a lot of these vintage computers, the joystick ports aren't hot swappable. So be mindful of that. So you may want to think about, turning it off, plugging it in, unplugging it, yada, yada, yada. But I digress. Assuming you've just got this out of the packet, you then take a thumb drive and you plug it in. The LED will flash a few times, and then it will kind of go into a bit of a rhythm flash, which I think is like a duh-duh, duh-duh. That means it's basically means it's sitting there idle and it's done whatever it needs to do. If this is a blank USB, what it does is it goes, hey, that's a USB drive, but I can't find a configuration file on it. I'm going to dump the one I currently have onto the thumb drive, which means then you have the file on the thumb drive ready to edit on your computer. So it's now done that, and I can unplug it and go plug this into a modern laptop. Right, take your thumb drive, plug it into your laptop, browse to the drive, and you will find a directory called mouSTer, and in there a mouSTer.ini file, and we're going to open that up with Notepad++. And here is our file. Now I've obviously blown this up so you can actually read it, but if we scroll down, there's really only two sections we need to worry about. One is the mouSTer general settings. For the most part, you can leave it in auto mode unless you are doing Commodore 1351 mouse, where you have to specify that it's in mouse mode. So we need to change that 00 to 01. And then scroll down to the mouse section and set the type of mouse. So we want to do Commodore 1351 for this, so that needs to be 02. Save your file, close Notepad++, and eject your thumb drive. And now we'll go back to the Commodore. Right, back to the Commodore. We take our thumb drive, we plug it into the mouSTer, and power on the machine. And if you watch the flashing light on the mouSTer, it will do a series of flashes, and what it's doing is it's looking at the USB drive and kind of going, oh hey, there is a configuration file on the thumb drive, let me now copy that back to myself so I have the updated settings. And eventually it will get to the point where it goes into that kind of idle flash. At that point, the mouSTer has updated itself. What you need to do now is you need to turn the machine back off. You can unplug the thumb drive and plug a mouse in and turn the machine back on again. And that, well, not only is it safer to do for static reasons, but that also reboots the mouSTer with the new settings. So I've got GEOS loaded up on my Pi 1541 back there. So if I go run GEOS 128, it will start to load GEOS. So after a wait, GEOS has now loaded. But if this is the first time you've ever loaded up GEOS, and yes, this did throw me the first time I tried it, it doesn't automatically recognize the mouse. What you need to do is you need to go Commodore 1, Commodore 1, Commodore I. Commodore I, and select your input device. And you can use the buttons for the arrow keys on the keyboard for this. Make sure COM 1351 is selected. And come across and go OK. GEOS will have a bit of a think about that. And look at that, you have a working mouse. Now, I'm not going to get right into the usability of GEOS because honestly I've played with it for about 30 seconds in preparation for this video, basically just to get the mouse to work. But there we go, a working mouse in GEOS. So like I said at the beginning, it's not just the 1351, it will also, for example, do Amiga. So if we take our thumb drive and put it back into the computer, and open it up and go back into our configuration file. We can leave the mouSTer general settings as 1 for mouse, and if we simply go down to mouse emulation settings and change that from 02 to 01 for Amiga, save that and eject our drive. And now we'll head over to my Amiga 500 and take a look there. So once again, take our mouSTer and plug it into joystick port, and it will do its little flashy thing. Take our thumb drive, plug it in, and we can power on the Amiga so it writes the configuration file back to the mouSTer again. Turn the machine off. Once again, take our mouse, plug it in, plug this back into the back, if I can find it. There we go. And we can now power up the Amiga. And with it booting into Workbench, we have a nice modern optical mouse working on our Amiga. But quickly, it's not just mice. You may have seen something else in the configuration file. So once again, let's go back to the laptop. So once again, thumb drive into the laptop, open up Notepad++. Right, so this time round, up in the top section under mouSTer, if we change that mode 01 to 02, it puts it into Gamepad mode. And again, save it, eject our disk, etc., etc. Now, I've already gone through the programming, yada, 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 turning it on, off, all the rest of it. But this time around, I'm going to plug in this, well, knockoff NES controller that happens to be USB. So if I plug this in, so for instance, if I was to spark up a game of Super Off-Road, which because I had to hit record on the camera, I'm now losing, we have a working Gamepad, which is kind of cool. And there we go, a wee little device that can perform multiple tasks, something that I quite like. To the point where I think I might actually go and buy a second one, mainly so on my Amiga I can have a mouse and a gamepad all at the same time using modern devices. But for now, that'll pretty much do it. If you like the mouSTer, I'll put links and stuff in the description where you can pick one up from Retrohax. If you would like to support the channel, I am now on Patreon, just like these wonderful people here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and all that kind of stuff, and I will see you in the next one.